for more stories. I've got 3 stories for tonight's episode, so get comfortable, close your eyes, and let's begin. This first story is The Lighthouse Log. Did you ever hear the story of the lighthouse keeper who kept a log for 30 years? His name doesn't matter, the lighthouse doesn't matter, but what matters is the log. Every keeper of every lighthouse keeps a log. It's mandatory. Tide times, weather conditions, ships that have passed, ships that have signalled, incidents reported, dry, functional, almost entirely without personality. This keeper was no different. 30 years of entries, same handwriting, same measured tone, same careful documentation of an isolated life on a rock in the middle of cold water. Researchers found the log decades after the lighthouse was decommissioned. They were doing cataloguing, maritime records, routine archival work, the kind nobody remembers doing. One of the workers began reading the log out of curiosity. She read for an hour before she noticed anything unusual. The entries were completely normal for the first 29 years. Weather, tides, ships, the occasional notation about maintenance or supply deliveries. Nothing remarkable. Nothing personal. Just 30 years of a man doing his job in solitude. Then she turned to the final year. The entries changed. Not dramatically, not immediately, but gradually over the course of several months. Something shifted in the tone. The keeper began noting things that weren't part of standard maritime record keeping. Something on the rocks last night. Not a seal, too large, gone by the morning. The light went out for 11 minutes at 3 a.m. I did not turn it off. There is a smell in the lamp room I cannot identify. Sweet. Wrong. The researchers assumed he was going mad from the isolation. It happens, it's documented. Men alone on rocks in cold water for years at a time sometimes lose their grip on things. But then they reached the final entry, and the handwriting was different. Not dramatically different, but different enough that the researcher noticed immediately. Slightly larger, slightly less controlled, as if written by someone who was trying very hard to imitate the keeper's hand but couldn't get it right. The entry read, "He is gone now. I have been here much longer than he has. I was here before the lighthouse. I will be here after. I kept the log because he kept the log. It seemed polite. The light will go out tonight. It will not come back on." The lighthouse records show the light went dark at night. No distress signal was ever sent. The keeper was never found. Some places are occupied before we arrive, and some occupants are patient enough to wait until we leave. So that concludes the first story, and I'm going to get straight into the second story. This story is called The Sleepwalker. Did you ever hear the story of the woman who walked in her sleep? This was the 1940s, a small town, a married couple, ordinary, the kind of people history doesn't record unless something unusual happens to them. Something unusual did happen to them. The wife began sleepwalking. It started small. Her husband would find her standing in the kitchen in the early hours, eyes open but unseeing, perfectly still. He'd guide her back to bed, and in the morning she would remember nothing. She then started moving further. He'd find her at the front door, at the garden gate, and once at the end of the street. He became frightened enough and curious enough to follow her one night. She walked for 3 miles. He followed at a distance, close enough to keep her in sight, and far enough not to disturb whatever was guiding her. She moved with a purpose that he found unsettling. Not the vague wandering of a sleeping mind, but the deliberate navigation of someone who knew exactly where they were going. She stopped outside a house on the edge of town. He didn't recognize it. He didn't know whose it was. She knocked on the door, and after a long moment, it opened. He couldn't see who answered. The doorway was dark, but she went inside without hesitation, and the door closed behind her. He waited outside for 4 hours. He told himself he'd give her 10 more minutes, then 10 more, then 10 more after that. He couldn't bring himself to knock. Something stopped him every time he raised his hand. At dawn, the door opened and she came back out. She was wearing different clothes, not her clothes. A dress he didn't recognize, in a style that seemed slightly too old for the time. Clean, pressed, as if she'd been there long enough to change and settle in. She walked past him without seeing him. He followed her home. She got back into bed and slept until noon, and when she awoke, she remembered nothing. She never sleepwalked again. He asked her once, years years later, when they were old, if she had ever felt like somewhere was calling her, like something needed her somewhere else. She looked at him for a long time before she answered. "Not anymore," she said. "It got what it needed." He never asked her what that meant, and she never explained. Some of us are called to places we don't remember visiting, and some places call us back more than once. The final story is a shorter story, and it's called The Letters. Did you ever hear the story of the man who received letters from himself? He moved into a flat 2 years ago, and 3 weeks later the first letter arrived. His name, his address, postmarked 34 years ago, before he was born. He opened it, his handwriting, his exact handwriting. The left would lean the way his ears closed too tight, describing his flat in detail. The view from the window, the kitchen light in the morning, things nobody could have known 34 years ago. It ended with one line. "Don't open the last one." More letters came, different days, same era, same handwriting, each one describing his present life in accurate detail. Conversations he'd had, places he'd been, and things he hadn't told anyone. They all ended the same way. Don't open the last one. Last week, he found one at the bottom of the pile he'd never noticed. No postmark this time, just his name. He held it for a long time. He put it back, and he told me one thing before he stopped talking about it. The handwriting on the last envelope was different to the others. These ones were more rushed, shakier, written in a hurry, or written in fear. Some warnings arrive just in time, and some don't. So that brings us to the end of our stories. We had 3 stories tonight. A lighthouse no one should have been alone in. A woman who went somewhere she couldn't remember. And a letter nobody should open. The rain's still falling. You're safe. You're warm. And whatever is out there tonight, it isn't here. I'm going to leave you with the sound of the rain to help you to fall asleep. And the video will gradually get darker, so you don't have to look at the screen. Thanks again for joining me tonight. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and any theories on the 3 stories tonight. I'm always keen to hear what you think. And yeah, subscribe if you want more stories. But for now, sleep well.